Hello, 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 and welcome back. Today I'd like to talk a little philosophy with you guys. I'd like to talk about a cosmological argument for God's existence. This is a Kalam cosmological argument. This one was repopularized by William Lane Craig as he wrote his dissertation on this. And it can be summarized as follows. Whatever began to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe has a cause. But let's go through this step by step. So whatever begins to exist has a cause. I think we can understand that. Let's take a look at this lock, for instance. Someone had to design the mechanism in the lock. Someone had to design the outside, the clip, the key. This all had to be designed, and then it was put together. But these parts had to be machined, and each part had to be made by someone else. And then those parts needed the materials to make the parts, and so on and so forth until the beginning of time, when stuff began. So we know that everything that began to exist has a cause. Because, well, you can take a look around you and see anything and think, well, that had to have started from somewhere, from something. So let's go to the next part. The universe began to exist. How do we prove this point? Well, actually, we see this already in the Big Bang Theory. Georges Lemaitre proposed this theory. He actually proposed that the universe is continuously expanding, which would imply and infer that it had to have had a beginning, because if it's expanding outwards, it had to start from somewhere. And we actually see this confirmed 2 years later with Hubble, with Hubble's law, finding the Hubble's constant, that the universe is expanding at this constant rate that is known as Hubble's law. So we see that, one, everything that began to exist has a cause, and two, the universe began to exist. But let's go into the philosophical side of it a bit more. Aristotle believed that the universe was eternal, like it didn't have a beginning, it's just always been around. But we see Al-Ghazali disagree. He argued that if the universe was eternal, then there would be an infinite amount of past events. But we actually see this to be metaphysically impossible. We see this with Hilbert's Hotel, the thought experiment, which, if you don't know what it is, think of this concept. So imagine a hotel with an infinite number of rooms. And let's say that we have an infinite number of guests staying at the hotel. And we take out every other room. We take a person out of the room, every other room, and they check out. We still have an infinite amount of people in the hotel and an infinite amount of people that checked out. So infinity minus infinity is still infinity. But we also see that, say, like 5 people came out. The first 5 rooms, those people checked out of the hotel. Infinity minus 5 is still infinity. So this seems like a contradiction. Actually, David Hilbert has a quote about infinity specifically. David Hilbert, the person who proposed this thought experiment, actually has a quote regarding infinity. He says, "We have already seen that the infinite is nowhere to be found in reality, no matter what experiences, observations, and knowledge are applied to." So he argued that infinity is impossible in our reality. Specifically, our reality. So for this all to be possible, the cause, or the uncaused causer, would have to be, one, immaterial, because to make material you need to be outside of material. He would need to be, 2, timeless, because if he created time, he would have to be outside of time to get that started, to get it begun. 3, have to be unimaginably powerful, because he would have to create everything that could ever exist. And he would have to be uncaused. He would have to be a god that's been around forever, because if he had a cause, then he isn't God. So God is a uncaused, immaterial, timeless, imaginably powerful being. And this is the Kalam cosmological argument for God's existence. Thank you for watching. I know some of you have been asking for full-length videos. That is on my list. I've just been very busy. And sorry this one took so long. As I said, I've been very busy. Thank you for tuning in and listening. Have a wonderful evening.